What importance does bowel health have on our pelvic floor and our bladder?
Yeah, it's really important to think about your bowel in context with your bladder because they're so close together. If you've got a bladder that tends to not want to fill as well as you feel it should, and you get that urgency very early in the cycle, or you find your bladder's very irritated, it's always worth checking whether maybe it's the bowel putting pressure on the bladder. And if you're not emptying your bowel as regularly as you need to, or it's very solid what's sitting in the bowel for long times, you can imagine there's not a lot of space in here. So if you've got a bladder here and then the bowel behind it, and the bladder's trying to fill, but the bowel's too full and in the way, then you limit how far the bladder can go. Or the bladder and the bowel press on each other and the bladder gets annoyed and says, well, I'm going to have a wee now. Yeah. So there's no rule about how often you should go, but it should be regular for you and comfortable and easy to pass. The things that influence bowels the most are your fluid intake. So keeping enough fluid to keep the bowel soft. Habits. A lot of women are guilty of always putting off going to the toilet because there's always something else more important to do. So establishing a regular toilet habit is one of the easiest things you can do. And then when you get to the toilet, we talk about 3 Ps. And the first one is your position. So making sure that you sit with your bottom right back. And there's a lot of science to show that if your knees are higher than your hips and then you lean forward, that is kind of mimicking a squat position that nature would have had us do otherwise. So you can put your feet up on a step, you can use a child's step, or you can buy a step that's designed to go around the toilet seat neatly and get forward and lean. So your position, and then patience. I think we tend to rush trying to empty our bowels, and recognizing that those people that take a book in and spend a little bit of time reading, what's happening there is by relaxing your mind and relaxing your thinking, you allow your bowel to get on and do its thing by itself. And it needs time to empty. And then finally, when it gets to pushing, we don't want to strain. And by straining, we mean holding your breath and pushing hard, which is kind of how you picture you should help. But when you hold your breath and tighten up, without realizing it, you tighten the muscles of the pelvic floor just when you want them to relax, to let everything out. So instead of straining, we talk about panting, just going and being relaxed. I always think of when you wind up a toothpaste tube, you're just going to wind it up from behind and let it push everything out gently. So it's not a...
I've heard of mooing too.
Oh, mooing.
I've heard of mooing.
Mooing.
Moo,
oh,
and
yes.
that. Yes.
Yeah, or sighing like a kind of feeling. So it's position, patience, and don't push. And better to do nothing or to just pant, like they tell you to do when you are pushing your baby's head out, to pant.
But it really is so important, isn't it, for the pelvic floor and pelvic floor health?
A lot of people find if they improve their bowel emptying, a lot of their bladder symptoms can improve as well. So it's really good to try and see if that's got something for you.